The twin suns of Zithra cast long golden streaks across the city, illuminating its towering spires and crystal streets. From above, the capital looked serene, almost untouched by the violence that had once swept across its history. But within the grand halls of the palace, a tension simmered, quiet yet heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Empress Lysara sat upon her throne, her posture regal yet stiff, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. To the galaxy, she was untouchable, a ruler whose wisdom and strength had maintained Zithra's dominance for decades. Yet behind her icy eyes lay a heart weighed down by a loss no power could mend. Decades ago, she had loved a human, a brave soul who had crossed the stars in a fragile alliance. He had been everything to her, partner, confidant, and protector. But he had disappeared mysteriously on a mission far from Zithra, leaving her with nothing but memories and a pain that refused to fade. Over the years, she had buried the grief beneath duty and command. Yet it lingered, invisible yet unshakable. The silence of the throne room was broken by a low, mechanical hum, the sound of an approaching vessel. A ripple of unease spread among her advisors, all of whom had grown accustomed to her calm command. None dared to speak. None wanted to interrupt what seemed like a private moment. "Your Majesty," said a cautious voice, "we have incoming traffic from a human vessel. It has requested immediate docking clearance." Lysara did not move. Her eyes, dark and luminous, remained fixed on the pale streaks of light where the human craft had entered Zithran space. For a moment, time seemed suspended, as if the universe itself waited with bated breath. "Bring him to me," she said finally, her voice steady but softer than usual. There was an edge to it that none of the guards had heard before, curiosity, tinged with something deeper, more personal. The human vessel descended gracefully, its hull glinting under Zithra's suns. From it emerged Captain Ethan Riker, a human soldier of no more than 30 summers. Yet his presence commanded immediate attention. His posture was firm, disciplined, and confident. He moved with purpose, every step deliberate. When Ethan stepped into the throne chamber, the air seemed to shift. Empress Lysara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The human before her was uncannily familiar. Every line of his face, every gesture, seemed to echo someone she had once known. Someone she had loved with a depth that now threatened to unravel her composure. It was impossible. This man could not be him. Her lost mate had vanished across the stars, perhaps forever. And yet, the resemblance was undeniable. The curve of his jaw, the set of his eyes, even the way he carried himself, it was as if time had folded in on itself, bringing a shadow of the past into the present. Ethan stopped several meters from the throne, bowing slightly in a gesture of respect. "Empress Lysara," he said, his voice steady and calm. "I am Captain Ethan Riker of the United Earth Coalition. I come in peace, on a mission of diplomacy and cooperation." The Empress's mind raced. Diplomacy? Cooperation? None of it mattered in that instant. All that mattered was the face before her, so achingly familiar it made her knees weak. "Step forward, human," she said at last, her voice regaining its authority. "State your purpose clearly. Any deception will not be tolerated." Ethan's gaze did not waver. "I am here to negotiate a treaty, to ensure mutual protection against external threats. My government recognizes the strength and wisdom of Zithra. We seek only peace and alliance." Her advisors murmured among themselves, exchanging wary glances. Some doubted the human's sincerity. Others feared the impact of his sudden appearance on the Empress. None of them understood the full weight of her silence. The way her mind was caught between duty and memory. Lysara studied him carefully. His movements were precise. Disciplined, he bore himself like a soldier trained to face impossible odds. And yet, there was something else, something beyond training, a warmth, a subtle familiarity that tugged at the corners of her mind. "Your credentials and identification," she commanded, her hand resting lightly on the arm of her throne. Ethan produced a sleek, metallic device, projecting a holographic emblem of the United Earth Coalition. The image shimmered, revealing his rank, mission, and purpose. "Everything is legitimate, Your Majesty. I understand the caution, but I assure you, my intentions are honorable." The Empress inclined her head slowly. She did not trust him entirely, but she could not deny the stirring of hope or something even more dangerous within her chest. Guards at the edge of the chamber tensed, ready to act if the situation escalated. But Lysara raised a hand. Not yet, not now. For several long minutes, the silence stretched between them. It was more than diplomacy. It was a conversation of souls, a bridge between past and present. Lysara's memories of her lost mate surged forward, shared laughter and quiet corridors. Secret messages whispered in the dead of night. The way his presence had made her feel safe against the vast, cold galaxy. Ethan, unaware of the depth of her recognition, felt a strange resonance himself. Something about this place, the Empress. The very air of Zithra stirred something deep within him, as if he had always belonged here, yet could not remember why. Your arrival is unexpected, Lysara said finally, her voice steady but carrying an unspoken weight. Explain why you appear now, after so many cycles. Ethan's brow furrowed in thought. I cannot explain why I feel drawn here. My mission is clear, peace and alliance, but I cannot deny a strange familiarity with this place and with you, Empress. It is as if I have been here before, though I have never set foot on Zithra. Her advisors gasped softly. None of them had ever heard a human speak in such terms. The Empress, however, did not react outwardly. Her mind was spinning. How could a human, a stranger, evoke memories so vivid, so personal? Could the galaxy itself be playing a trick? Very well, Lysara said after a long pause. You will be detained for observation, Captain Riker. You will be treated with courtesy, but your actions will be closely monitored. Ethan inclined his head in understanding. I will cooperate fully, Your Majesty. I have nothing to hide. As the guards approached to escort him, Lysara felt a pang of hesitation. She could not explain why, but she wanted to know more about this human, not merely as a soldier or envoy, but as someone who seemed to carry echoes of her lost love. The chamber doors closed behind him, and the Empress remained seated on her throne, staring into the distance. Her heart beat faster than it had in decades. For the first time in a very long time, the past had walked into the present, and it wore the face of a human soldier. Outside the throne room, the capital continued its steady rhythm, unaware of the momentous encounter within its walls. The suns of Zithra shone brightly, indifferent to the stirrings of fate, yet beneath their light, history was quietly shifting. A connection had begun, one that would challenge loyalty, destiny, and the very understanding of what it meant to be human and to love. Ethan, meanwhile, was led through the winding halls of the palace, his mind alive with questions. Who was the Empress, truly? Why did she look at him as if he were someone she had known for eternity? And why, deep within him, did he feel the pull of a life he could not recall? In a galaxy of countless stars, of civilizations that span millennia, an improbable story was beginning, one that would bridge worlds, unite hearts, and test the limits of courage. And in the throne room, Empress Lysara finally allowed herself a quiet whisper, almost to herself. Could it really be him? The weight of centuries pressed down, yet a spark of hope ignited, fragile but undeniable. The arrival of the human had set the wheels of fate in motion. The story of loss, discovery, and destiny had begun. The palace of Zithra was a place of precision and order, every corridor gleaming, every chamber radiating authority. Yet, despite the flawless exterior, tension hummed beneath the surface. The arrival of Captain Ethan Riker had stirred something in the heart of Empress Lysara, a sensation she had not felt in decades, curiosity mixed with disbelief, and an emotion so sharp it bordered on fear. Ethan had been escorted to a secure wing of the palace, a space usually reserved for foreign dignitaries or prisoners of importance. It was designed to be comfortable yet inescapable, a place where Zithran technology ensured that no one could move beyond its bounds without permission. The human soldier observed everything with careful eyes, noting the alien architecture, the crystalline walls, and the soft hum of energy that powered the palace. He was not intimidated. If anything, he was intrigued. He had faced countless threats in his career: hostile planets, rogue fleets, An unknown phenomenon, but there was something about this place that felt familiar. Strange memories flickered at the edge of his mind. Images of halls he had never walked before, voices he could not recall hearing, yet which seemed to echo within him. Meanwhile, Empress Lysara remained in her throne room, her gaze fixed on the chamber where Ethan was being held. She had spent hours watching him via discreet observation devices, studying his every gesture, every movement. He was human, yes, and yet there was something about the way he held himself, the precision in his posture, the calm authority in his eyes that mirrored the presence of someone she had loved long ago. Her advisors were growing concerned. "Your Majesty," one of them said cautiously, "the human shows remarkable composure. Perhaps he is trained for diplomatic observation rather than combat. Still, he is an unknown. We should proceed carefully." Lysara's eyes did not leave the monitor. "Careful?" she asked softly, though the word carried the weight of centuries. "We have always been careful. And yet, here he is. Do you not see? This human. He is not merely an envoy. There is something more." Another advisor, more pragmatic than the rest, frowned. "With respect, Your Majesty, we cannot base our decisions on resemblance or intuition. We must verify his identity and intentions." The Empress remained silent for a long moment. Verification alone would not explain the flood of emotion, the uncanny familiarity, or the memories that surged forward unbidden. She knew the galaxy was full of strange phenomena, but this felt personal to ignore. In his secure chamber, Ethan explored the space cautiously. Though restrained by the palace's security systems, he moved freely within the limits of the room. He studied the alien symbols etched into the walls, the subtle way the floor responded to pressure, and the energy barriers that hummed softly in the air. He could feel the intelligence behind their design, the skill that had built an empire so far from Earth. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open with a hiss, and a Zithran aide entered, carrying a tray of food. He bowed respectfully. "Captain Riker, Empress Lysara has requested that you be served according to Zithran custom. Please accept this meal." Ethan nodded. "Thank you. I appreciate the gesture." The aide hesitated, sensing a deeper tension, then left quietly. Ethan sat on the edge of the bench provided, carefully tasting the alien food. He had encountered foreign cuisines before, but this was different, subtle flavors, sharp yet balanced, a complexity he could not immediately describe. As he ate, he thought about the Empress. He remembered the brief moment he had seen her in the throne room, the way her eyes had lingered on him longer than necessary. Something about her gaze had unsettled him, as if she recognized him or as if he recognized her. But he could not explain why. Back in the throne room, Lysara summoned her closest confidant, a Zithran named Tariq, who had served her since the early years of her reign. "Tariq," she said, her voice low, "watch him. Study him. I want to know everything. His behavior, his reactions, his thoughts if possible. There's more to this human than meets the eye." Tariq inclined his head. "As you wish, Your Majesty. But may I ask, why this urgency? He is, after all, only a human soldier." Lysara's eyes darkened. "Because he is not only a soldier. He is a reflection of someone I lost long ago. I cannot explain it, but I feel it in my bones. This human, he has stirred something I thought was buried forever." Tariq did not respond, knowing better than to press. Instead, he left to carry out her orders, his mind racing with questions and concerns of his own. Hours passed. Lysara watched, silent and still, as Ethan moved through his chamber, examined every detail, and showed remarkable calm under observation. There was no hint of fear, no sign of deceit, only intelligence and composure. And yet, every gesture reminded her of her lost mate, the way he shifted his weight, the curve of his hands, the intensity in his gaze. Later, Ethan was summoned to the Empress's council room. Guards flanked the entrance, but the Empress herself was waiting, seated behind a desk adorned with glowing Zithran crystals. She regarded him silently, measuring his presence, studying him as one might examine a rare artifact. "Captain Riker," she said finally, her voice steady but carrying subtle emotion, You are aware that your rival has caused concern among my advisors. They question your identity, your purpose, and your loyalty. You must understand the seriousness of your position here. I understand, Ethan replied calmly. I came in peace. I seek only to establish communication and mutual understanding. I am not here to deceive or provoke. The Empress's eyes narrowed slightly. Peace, yes, that is what you claim. Yet you evoke memories that are difficult to explain. Your presence stirs something in me, something I thought lost to time. Tell me, Captain, have you been here before? In any form? Ethan froze. Her question struck at the heart of his own confusion. He had felt drawn to this place, yet he could not explain why. I have never been here, he admitted. And yet, I feel as if I belong, as if I am not entirely a stranger. I cannot explain it, Empress, but there is something familiar about this place. And about you. Lysara studied him, the resemblance to her lost mate now impossible to ignore. The same strong features, the same calm authority, even the way he seemed to understand unspoken rules and subtle cues. She forced herself to maintain composure, to remind herself that this was a human soldier, not the one she had loved. Still, her advisors' voices echoed in her mind. They demanded reason, caution, verification. But reason alone could not explain the pull she felt toward this man. She had spent decades ruling an empire, yet here she was, undone by a single human presence. Very well, she said finally, rising from her seat. Her robe flowed behind her like liquid light. You will remain under observation, Captain. You will have certain freedoms, but know this, your actions, your words, and even your thoughts may be monitored. Understand? I understand, Ethan replied, his voice steady. Yet beneath that calm exterior, his own curiosity was building. He wanted answers about her, about this place, and about the strange pull he felt toward it. Over the next few cycles, Lysara continued her scrutiny. She watched as Ethan studied Zithran technology with keen interest, asked intelligent questions about governance and defense, and demonstrated skills that went beyond mere training. He was human, yes, but there was a depth to him that was unusual, rare even, for the Empress. Every day was a battle between caution and instinct. She could not allow herself to act on mere resemblance or emotion. Yet she could not ignore the truth in front of her. There was something extraordinary about this human, something that might explain his presence, and perhaps the stirring of old memories long thought buried. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace, Lysara approached Ethan's chamber. She stood silently outside, listening. Within, Ethan was speaking softly to himself, examining a holographic map of Zithra's capital and surrounding territories. Her heart quickened. She had not intended to intrude, yet she felt drawn to him, unable to resist. The pull was magnetic, intangible, and undeniable. She remembered a promise she had once made to protect the one she loved, no matter the cost. And now, centuries later, that promise seemed to stretch across time, reaching toward this human soldier. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain Riker. Ethan looked up, startled. Empress Lysara, he said, bowing slightly. I did not expect a visit. I could not resist, she admitted, her composure slipping just slightly. There is something about you, something I cannot explain. You remind me of someone I once loved, someone I lost, and yet you are not him. You are here, now, alive, and human. Ethan's brow furrowed. I feel it too, he said quietly. I do not know why, but there is a connection. Something in me remembers, even if I cannot place it. I feel drawn to you, as if fate itself has brought me here. For a long moment, silence hung between them, two beings from different worlds, bound by memory and mystery, each aware that this encounter was extraordinary, possibly historic. Neither fully understood the reason, yet both knew that the story of their meeting had only just begun. And as the sun set over Zithra, painting the crystal city in shades of gold and amber, a new chapter in the galaxy's history quietly unfolded, one of trust, curiosity, and the slow, inevitable awakening of something far greater than either of them had anticipated. The calm of Zithra's crystal towers belied the tension gathering beyond its borders. In the vast reaches of space, a fleet of hostile alien ships moved silently, plotting the invasion of the Empire. The Krather, a warrior species known for their brutality and cunning, had watched Zithra for cycles, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They sensed vulnerability in the Empire's leadership, rumors of internal uncertainty, and the arrival of a human envoy only strengthened their resolve. Inside the palace, Empress Lysara sensed a growing unease. She had spent centuries mastering the art of strategy, diplomacy, and war. Yet she could not ignore the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. Her observations of Captain Ethan Riker had revealed much. He was intelligent, brave, and adaptable qualities she had not expected from a human. But she remained cautious. How much could she trust someone whose very presence challenged centuries of experience? Ethan, meanwhile, was learning quickly. Though still under observation, he had been given limited access to Zithran archives. Studying their history, military tactics, and technology, he noticed patterns, strategies, and weaknesses that had eluded even the most seasoned Zithran commanders. He approached the Empress with ideas, blending human tactics with insights from his observations. And she could not help but listen. "You're unusual, Captain," Lysara said one evening. As they reviewed star charts together, "You see things that others overlook." "How do you do it?" Ethan studied the maps carefully. "I try to think like someone who has no assumptions about your world," he replied. "I don't know your customs, your history, or your fears. I see only the problem and the possible solutions. Sometimes that allows me to notice things that others take for granted." Lysara considered this. Humans had long been underestimated in the galaxy, often dismissed as primitive or fragile. And yet, here was one who approached problems with clarity, courage, and creativity. She felt an unfamiliar respect for him and something more, an unspoken connection that she had not yet fully named. Days passed, and intelligence reports confirmed her fears. The Krather were moving closer, their fleet more massive than expected. They would arrive sooner than anyone had predicted. The palace buzzed with activity, as commanders prepared defenses and strategists plotted countermeasures. And through it all, Ethan remained calm, offering insights that blended logic, intuition, and experience. "Your Majesty," Ethan said during one meeting, pointing to a projection of enemy positions, "the Krather assume that we will defend only in predictable patterns. But if we create deceptive maneuvers, use their own assumptions against them, we can weaken their fleet before it reaches the capital." Lysara studied his plan carefully. It was bold, perhaps even risky, but she recognized its brilliance. "This could work," she said finally, "but it requires absolute coordination. Any misstep could be disastrous." "I understand," Ethan replied, "but sometimes progress requires calculated risk, and we have an advantage. They do not know us, nor do they anticipate the unity we can achieve." The Empress's advisors murmured among themselves. Humans rarely understood Zithran tactics fully, and yet here was one whose insight seemed almost uncanny. Lysara kept her thoughts private, aware that some of her counsel might view her trust as a vulnerability. But she could not ignore the truth. Ethan's presence had changed the way she thought about strategy, about courage, and even about hope. The first signs of the Krather fleet appeared as small, distant blips on Zithra's surveillance systems. Scouts and reconnaissance drones reported movement, confirming that an attack was imminent. Lysara convened an emergency council to discuss defenses. The room was tense, every officer aware that failure could mean the fall of their empire. Ethan spoke last, his voice calm and steady. "If I may," he began, "we should not focus solely on defending the capital. We can turn the environment to our advantage. The Krather rely on speed and brute force. If we manipulate terrain, use our mobility, and create unpredictable strategies, we can outmaneuver them." The Empress studied him closely. His words were confident, but there was more than confidence, there was understanding. He thought like a warrior, yet also like someone who valued life. who calculated not only victory but survival. She felt a pang of admiration and a strange echo of memory that she could not explain. "Very well," she said finally, "prepare your teams. We will implement your strategies alongside our defenses. Captain Riker, you will oversee coordination of our forward units." Ethan nodded. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." Over the next cycles, preparations were intense. Zithran ships moved into strategic positions, defensive grids were reinforced, and communication lines were strengthened. Ethan worked tirelessly, training squads, coordinating patrols, and implementing unconventional tactics. He quickly gained the respect of the Zithran soldiers, not through authority, but through competence, courage, and the quiet way he inspired them. During a late-night review of battle plans, Lysar approached Ethan again. "You are unlike any human I have ever encountered," she said softly. "You adapt quickly. You understand, and yet there is a presence about you, something beyond experience. I do not understand it fully, but I feel it." Ethan looked at her, aware of the intensity in her gaze. "I feel it too," he admitted. "There's something about this place, and about you, that I cannot explain. I do not know why I feel connected, but it is undeniable." The Empress studied him in silence, her mind flashing back to memories of her lost mate, laughter shared in secret corridors, quiet moments beneath alien skies, a bond forged in trust and love. Ethan's presence stirred those memories so vividly that it almost hurt. She forced herself to remain composed. Duty had to come first, yet her heart betrayed her, racing faster than it had in decades. As the sun set over the horizon, an alarm blared throughout the palace. The Krather fleet had been detected moving towards Zithra's outer defenses. Red lights bathed the corridors as soldiers scrambled to stations. Energy barriers hummed to life, and the Empire braced for war. Ethan moved swiftly among the troops, offering guidance, encouragement, and precise instructions. He was in his element, combining human ingenuity with observations of Zithran technology to maximize efficiency. He inspired confidence, not just in soldiers, but in commanders who had never expected a human to guide their strategy. Lysar remained in the command chamber, overseeing the operation, her mind divided between duty and the strange pull she felt toward Ethan. She watched him, noting how he moved, how he spoke, and how he calculated risks with calm precision. The resemblance to her lost mate so uncanny in his gestures, in his confidence. And his presence was now impossible to ignore. As the enemy fleet approached, the first skirmishes began on the outer borders. Small Krather vessels attempted to probe Zithra's defenses, only to find themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Ethan had predicted their approach patterns, their aggressive tendencies, and their reliance on overwhelming numbers. Zithran and human tactics combined seamlessly, and for the first time, Lysara felt a surge of hope that her empire could withstand the onslaught. Despite the initial success, Lysara knew the battle had only begun. The Krather were relentless, clever, and dangerous. The empire's survival depended on strategy, courage, and unity. And in that unity, she saw the importance of the human before her, a soldier who had arrived unexpectedly, who carried the weight of the past in ways neither of them fully understood. As the night deepened, Lysara approached Ethan again, standing quietly in the command chamber as he studied a holographic projection of the battlefield. "You are extraordinary," she said softly, "not just in skill, but in presence. There is a courage in you and a clarity of thought that I have not seen in decades." Ethan looked up, surprised by her words. "I'm honored, Empress," he said humbly. "But this is not just my work, your people. Your soldiers, they fight with incredible skill and loyalty. I merely help guide them." She smiled faintly, the first time in many cycles that warmth had touched her expression. "Perhaps," she said, "but guidance can turn the tide of destiny. And destiny has a way of choosing its agents, even when it seems impossible." For a brief moment, time seemed to pause. Two beings from different worlds, linked by fate and circumstance, acknowledged the weight of the moment. Outside the palace, the stars gleamed cold and distant, but within Zithra, a spark of hope burned bright. The Krather fleet continued its approach, But the first wave had been repelled with minimal loss, the Empress's confidence in her soldiers and in the human soldier who had stirred something long thought lost was growing. She knew that greater challenges were ahead, yet for the first time in decades, she felt that victory might not only be possible, but inevitable, and in that quiet, fleeting moment before the next wave of battle, Lysara allowed herself a thought. She had not permitted in many cycles. Perhaps the universe had not abandoned her entirely. Perhaps, in the arrival of a human soldier, fate had offered her something she had long believed impossible, a second chance. The battle against the Krather raged across the outer sectors of Zithra's territory. Ships streaked through space, exchanging fire and dodging energy blasts. Alarms sounded in the palace as reports came in of skirmishes across multiple points. Yet amidst the chaos, Captain Ethan Riker remained calm. He moved among the officers, offering guidance, issuing orders, and adapting to the changing situation with the precision of a seasoned tactician. Empress Lysara watched from the central command chamber, her eyes never leaving him. Every decision he made, every suggestion, reminded her of someone she had lost decades ago. The resemblance, once unsettling, now felt almost like a key turning in a lock, a link to memories she had tried to bury. As the first wave of the Krather fleet was pushed back, a new alert sounded. Deep in the Zithran archives, Ethan had discovered a hidden section of ancient records archives that had not been accessed for centuries. It was a place of silence and forgotten knowledge, containing logs, maps, and reports from the early days of Zithra's empire. Your Majesty, Ethan said as he entered the chamber with a data crystal in hand. I believe there is something here you need to see. It may explain why I feel connected to you and why my presence seems significant. Lysara's brow furrowed. Explain? She asked, her curiosity piqued despite the ongoing battle. What could these old records possibly reveal? Ethan placed the crystal in a reader, and a holographic projection filled the chamber with detailed star maps, diagrams, and textual data. Slowly, he began to speak. Centuries ago, your mate, my ancestor, perhaps was involved in a unique human Zithran program. It was a project meant to preserve genetic and cognitive traits across generations. The records suggest that your mate's lineage carries a form of temporal resonance memories, instincts, and certain abilities passed down, even if physically distant across time and space. Lysara's eyes widened. She had heard legends of human resilience and unique capabilities, but never anything like this. Are you saying you are connected to him? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan studied the projection, his own emotions tangled in confusion and wonder. I don't know if it's direct inheritance or something more complex, but the records indicate that my genetic line carries fragments of your lost mate. That could explain why I feel drawn to this place, and why you sense something familiar in me. The Empress remained silent, letting the weight of the revelation settle. Her heart raced. Decades of grief, of longing, of unanswered questions, all of it collided in that moment. The human standing before her was not exactly her lost mate, yet he carried the essence of him, preserved across time in ways the galaxy had never truly understood. Outside the palace, the Krather were regrouping, their ships massing for a second, more determined wave of attack. The battle was far from over, and the pressure on Zithra's leadership was immense. Yet inside, a more personal revelation took hold. Lysara realized that the arrival of Ethan was no coincidence. The galaxy had orchestrated a meeting that transcended logic, one that had the potential to change the course of history. Ethan looked at her, his gaze steady. I don't fully understand it myself, he said, but I feel a responsibility not just to your empire, but to you, to honor the connection that exists and to protect Zithra. The Empress drew a slow breath, steadying herself. Duty had always come first, and it would continue to come first. Yet now, duty was intertwined with something far more personal. She had always led with wisdom and strategy, but here was a human whose presence challenged her in ways she could not ignore. Then we have no time to waste, she said, regaining her composure. The Krather will not wait while we unravel mysteries of the past. Prepare our forces. We will need every advantage we can muster. Ethan nodded. I will coordinate with your commanders. Together, we can use both human and Zithran tactics to outmaneuver them. There is still a chance to end this without unnecessary loss for the next cycles. Preparations intensified. Zithran warships moved in precise formations, deploying energy shields and automated drones. Ethan oversaw rapid training of combined units, integrating human combat strategies with Zithran technology. His understanding of both worlds allowed him to anticipate enemy maneuvers, adapt strategies quickly, and inspire confidence in troops who had once doubted a human's capability in alien warfare. As they worked, Lysara and Ethan shared brief moments of conversation, discussing strategy, history, and the intricacies of leadership. These moments were fleeting, yet each one deepened their understanding of each other. Lysara found herself speaking with an honesty she had not shown in decades. And Ethan, despite the urgency of battle, began to feel a strange sense of belonging, as though he had finally arrived home. One evening, as the suns of Zithra dipped low, bathing the city in golden light, Lysara summoned Ethan to the observation deck. The capital stretched out beneath them, a shimmering expanse of crystal towers and flowing energy conduits. The calm belied the tension of the ongoing war. You have changed the way we fight, Lysara said softly, her voice carrying both admiration and a hint of awe. Your tactics, your insight, it is unlike anything we have seen. Yet there is something more, something beyond strategy. Ethan looked at her, understanding the depth behind her words. I know, he admitted. I feel it too. It is as if we are connected not just by the present, but by what came before. By choices, by memories, by legacy. The Empress studied him for a long moment. She could see the truth in his eyes, a mirror of her own realization. The bond between them was extraordinary, shaped by fate and history, and strengthened by the present. She allowed herself a small, rare smile. Then we will fight this war together, not just as leaders, but as allies, and perhaps something more, though time will tell. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. Sensors detected a massive formation of Krather warships approaching the capital, faster and more organized than anticipated. The second wave of the enemy had arrived. Lysara straightened, her expression hardening with determination. Prepare the defenses. Mobilize every unit. Ethan, coordinate the forward squadrons. We cannot allow them to breach the city. Ethan moved quickly, issuing commands, adjusting formations, and predicting enemy movements. The Krather attacked with ferocity, relying on brute strength and overwhelming numbers. Yet Zithra's combined human and Zithran forces countered with precision, executing strategies that neither side had anticipated. The battle was intense. Energy beams tore through the void, shields flared and cracked, and ships maneuvered with astonishing speed. Yet amidst the chaos, Ethan's leadership shone. He anticipated the enemy's moves, coordinated rapid responses, and inspired soldiers to fight beyond exhaustion. Zithran commanders who had once doubted him now followed his instructions without question. In the heart of the palace, Lysara monitored the conflict, her hands lightly resting on the edge of the command platform. Her mind flashed to her lost mate, the memories she had carried all these years, and the strange, profound presence of Ethan before her. She realized that the galaxy had given her a second chance not to replace the past, but to honor it, to learn from it, and to move forward with courage and wisdom. Hours passed. The tide of battle shifted again and again, but Zithra held. The Krather, frustrated and battered, began to retreat, unable to overcome the combined strength and ingenuity of the defenders. Energy fields glowed, signaling victory and survival, and for the first time in cycles, the palace breathed a collective sigh of relief. Ethan returned to the command chamber, exhausted but composed. Lysara approached, her expression a mixture of pride, relief, and unspoken emotion. You were remarkable, she said simply, not just in battle, but in how you have changed us. You have reminded us of the power of courage, unity, and hope. Ethan bowed slightly. It was a joint effort, Your Majesty. Your people, your soldiers, they are brave and skilled beyond measure. I only help guide. She studied him, her thoughts turning to the revelation of the archives, the connection they shared, and the possibilities that lay ahead. Perhaps, she said softly, guidance alone can shape destiny. And perhaps destiny has chosen you for a reason far beyond war. Ethan met her gaze, understanding the weight of her words. Then we will face the future together, whatever it may bring, he said. Lysara nodded, a rare smile gracing her features. In that moment, amidst the remnants of battle and the calm after the storm, she felt something she had not experienced in decades. Hope. Hope that the past could be honored, that the present could be strengthened, and that the future, uncertain and vast as it was, could be shared with someone who understood her in ways no one else could. And as the sons of Zithra arose on a new cycle, the Empress allowed herself a thought she had not dared in centuries. Perhaps the galaxy had not abandoned her. Perhaps, in the arrival of a human soldier, fate had given her a chance to rewrite history not just for her empire, but for her heart. The story of loss, discovery, and connection had reached a new turning point. The Krather threat had been delayed, but the larger journey, the journey of trust, revelation, and shared destiny was only beginning. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath as the final wave of the Krather fleet approached Zithra. Their ships blazed across the void, a swirling storm of power and aggression. Unlike the previous waves, this one was vast, coordinated, and relentless. Yet within the palace, Empress Lysara and Captain Ethan Riker were calm, their minds focused on the task ahead. This is it, Lysara said quietly, standing beside Ethan in the central command chamber. If they break through now, everything we've built could fall. Ethan nodded, his gaze steady. Then we make sure they don't. Their strength is in numbers, not strategy. We can outthink them, outmaneuver them, and turn their own aggression against them. The Empress studied him, feeling a strange mix of pride and something more profound, an echo of her lost mate, a reflection of the connection she had feared and yet now embraced. Then we fight together, she said, her voice firm and unwavering, across the galaxy. Zithra's fleet moved with precision. Human and Zithran forces operated in perfect coordination, each unit knowing its place, each strike carefully calculated. Ethan led forward squadrons, predicting enemy movements, suggesting maneuvers that even the most experienced Zithran commanders had not considered. His insights, combined with the Empire's formidable technology, created a fluid, adaptive defense that left the Krather fleet scrambling. In the throne room, Lysara observed the battle holograms, her hands resting lightly on the console. Her mind raced, recalling every moment of their shared struggle, Ethan's unwavering calm, the way he inspired soldiers, his ability to think beyond conventional tactics. She realized, with a quiet awe, that humans were far more capable than her history had suggested. The first clashes were intense. Krather ships fired massive energy beams, tearing through outer defenses, yet Zithran shields held. Counterattacks hit with precision, disabling engines and forcing enemy vessels to retreat. In every maneuver, Ethan's guidance was evident, and the combined forces slowly turned the tide. Amid the chaos, Lysara could not ignore the bond she felt with him. It was more than memory, more than strategy. It was trust, understanding, and an unspoken connection that had grown steadily since his arrival. Every glance between them seemed to convey volumes, every shared moment of command deepening a link neither had expected. The Krather realized they were facing an unusual foe. Their attempts at brute force were failing, and their strategy faltered against an alliance that combined human ingenuity with Zithran precision. In desperation, their leaders coordinated a concentrated strike toward the capital, hoping to break morale and force a surrender. Ethan noticed the pattern immediately. "They're trying to divide us," he said, pointing at the holographic projection. "They aim to attack the city directly while distracting our fleet elsewhere. We need a countermeasure fast." Lysara acted without hesitation. "Then we shall give it to them. Mobilize the central fleet to support the city, while I will take a strike team to intercept the Krather leaders." Ethan's eyes met hers. "I'll coordinate both sides. Trust me." Her lips curved in a faint smile. "I do." The next hours were a blur of calculated chaos. Zithran ships formed defensive rings around the city, human-led squads executed flanking maneuvers, and Ethan moved with unmatched focus, issuing commands that turned potential disasters into opportunities. He anticipated Crather tactics before they were executed, using the enemy's aggression as a tool to isolate and disable their warships. Lysara led her strike team with courage and skill, her personal presence boosting morale. She fought alongside her soldiers, demonstrating not only leadership but the very bravery that had made her an icon among her people. Every move she made was precise, yet her mind remained on Ethan, whose calm efficiency ensured that the larger battle remained under control. As the battle reached its peak, the Crather flagship attempted a desperate maneuver, a concentrated energy blast, aimed directly at the capital. Alarm sirens rang out, the palace shaking as energy fields flared to life. Ethan's calculations were swift. Divert auxiliary power to the main shields and deploy intercept drones now. He commanded. The orders were executed perfectly. Energy fields absorbed the blast, and the drones intercepted the enemy projectiles, neutralizing the threat before it could reach the city. The Crather flagship, caught off guard, was then surrounded by Zithran and human forces. Within minutes, it was disabled, leaving the remaining enemy fleet in disarray. Victory was within reach. Ethan coordinated a final push, guiding the fleet with precision, cutting off retreat paths, and forcing surrender. One by one, Crather's ships either fell or retreated, unable to overcome the combination of strategy, skill, and unity. Finally, silence fell across the battlefield. The stars seemed still, the void peaceful once more. Zithra had survived, stronger than ever, and its people had witnessed a victory that would be remembered for generations. Back in the palace, Lysara and Ethan stood together on the observation deck, overlooking the city. Energy fields glowed softly, shields maintained, and the citizens of Zithra cheered as news of the victory spread. "You did it," Lysara said, her voice filled with both admiration and relief. "We did it. Thanks to you." Ethan shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. We did it together. Every soldier, every officer, every individual human and Zithran alike. I only helped guide them. The credit belongs to all of us." She studied him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of respect, gratitude, and something deeper in emotion she had not allowed herself in decades. "There is more than guidance here, Ethan. You have reminded me of courage, hope, and connection. You carry more than strategy. You carry something of the past, something I thought lost forever." Ethan's gaze softened. "And you have reminded me of belonging, of purpose, of home. I came here as a soldier, but I feel now that I was meant to be here, to stand with you, to fight not just for victory, but for something greater." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of their shared experience settling around them. The connection between them was undeniable, forged through loss, discovery, and the fires of battle. It was a bond that transcended species, time, and expectation. Lysara finally spoke, her voice steady but tender. "Then let us face the future together, not as Empress and soldier, but as allies, friends. Perhaps something more, if destiny allows." Ethan nodded. "I would like that." In the following cycles, the Empire began the work of recovery and rebuilding. Systems damaged in the Crather attack were repaired, trade routes reopened, and citizens returned to their daily lives. The alliance between humans and Zithrans was strengthened, their combined knowledge and courage now recognized as a force capable of protecting the galaxy from future threats. Ethan's presence in Zithra became more than diplomatic or strategic. He trained troops, shared human technologies, and learned from Zithran wisdom. Together, he and Lysara forged plans for exploration, defense, and mutual understanding, ensuring that their worlds would grow closer with each cycle. One evening, as the suns of Zithra set, Lysara and Ethan walked through the palace gardens, their steps slow, unhurried. Crystalline trees reflected golden light, and the gentle hum of energy fields created a peaceful rhythm. "You have changed the Empire," Lysara said softly. "And you have changed me. You have changed me too," Ethan replied. "I have faced many battles, seen countless worlds, but none of it compares to this connection, this purpose." It is extraordinary. Lysara smiled, allowing herself a rare moment of vulnerability. For decades, I thought I had lost everything. My mate, my trust and possibility, even hope. But you have reminded me that life, courage, and connection endure even across time and distance. Ethan reached out, gently taking her hand. Then we moved forward together. Whatever comes, we face it side by side. And in that simple touch, centuries of loss, longing, and uncertainty melted away. Two beings from different worlds, bound by fate and courage, had found unity not only in strategy and battle, but in something far deeper: trust, respect. In the beginnings of love. As night fell over Zithra, the city glowed like a jewel under the stars. The Krather had been defeated, the Empire preserved, and a human soldier unexpected, extraordinary had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the limitless potential of unity. In the throne room, Lysara looked out at the horizon, her mind calm and clear. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and wonders, but she no longer faced it alone. At her side stood Ethan Riker, a soldier, an ally, and a living reminder that the past could guide the present, and that the future was theirs to shape. And somewhere deep in her heart, Lysara knew the truth, that even across time, across species, and across worlds, hope and connection endure. The stars above Zithra shone brightly, signaling not an end, but a beginning of unity, courage, and shared destiny. Humanity and Zithra had found common ground, and together, they would face the galaxy with strength, wisdom, and heart. The Empress smiled, feeling a warmth she had not known in decades. And as she looked at Ethan, standing beside her, she whispered quietly, almost to herself, "Welcome home."